I found myself reborn on the day I was reunited with my biological parents. This time, despite their disbelief, I firmly walked towards my adoptive parents who own a ranch. The fake heiress wrinkled her nose in disgust. Are you serious? Going back with those country folks who raise pigs and chickens? You smell awful. My biological parents chimed in from behind. Don't regret it later, because even if you do, we're not taking you back. Hearing their sarcastic remarks, I couldn't help but laugh. They had no idea. In just 1 week, the apocalypse would hit. By then, food would be the real currency, and all their prized assets would be worthless. I'm telling you, don't forget your place when you get back. The only real heiress in our family is Carrie. As soon as I opened my eyes, a familiar wealthy woman was pointing at me. She wouldn't even spare me a glance, as if I was offending her sight. Next to her, the fake heiress, Carrie, mocked me sarcastically. Mom, stop it. Let's just get sis to take a shower first. The smell is unbelievable. Our villa's gonna drop in value. I didn't actually have any smell. She just looked down on me because of my background. Hearing her mockery once again, I fully realized I had been reborn. Without considering anything else, having lived through the apocalypse, and having gone half a year without proper food, I quickly took out the big meat bun my adoptive parents packed for me. I devoured it in large bites. This coarse act naturally invited more of their ridicule. The stern middle-aged man frowned and shouted, "Raised in the countryside, can't even behave properly." He continued, "Molly, we agreed you'd provide blood for Carrie regularly. Only then would we offer you material support. Carrie suffered from severe anemia, and her blood type was rare. Unfortunately for them, as the real heiress, I shared that rare blood type. They only brought me back to use me as Carrie's blood bag." After finishing the bun, I spoke coldly. "I'm not interested in what you're offering. I'm going to find my real parents." I turned, ready to leave, not wanting to waste any more time on them. Carrie's father shouted in surprise, "Molly, you really think you can just leave? Without us, your adoptive parents' farm will go bankrupt soon." The weather had been bad that year, and the economy was down. My adoptive parents' farm was stuck with unsold meat. In my past life, I agreed to be a blood bag to protect my adoptive parents' hard work. Carrie pinched her nose, as if she smelled something terrible. "Your parents? Oh, you mean those country hicks? Raising pigs and chickens? Are you out of your mind?" Haha, of course I'm in the right mind. In fact, I was terrifyingly clear-headed at that moment. Reborn, I knew the apocalypse was a week away. By then, the pork and chicken they looked down upon would be real assets, and their precious wealth would become nothing but waste paper. Suddenly remembering something, I turned back around. When they saw me, they thought I had regretted it and looked smug. But my next sentence made them freeze in place. 10 million, to cut all ties with you. How about it? Carrie's mom's jaw dropped, and she screamed, 10 million? Have you lost your mind? I folded my arms and added, "Don't worry, I won't bother you again. As for Carrie's blood needs, I'm willing to sign an agreement." After some thought, Carrie's father nodded. Once we signed the agreement, I got my 10 million. The price was a monthly blood donation to Carrie. For me, it was a win-win deal. With the apocalypse a week away, basic laws would be history. That broken agreement wouldn't matter. Yet the 10 million would help me prepare for what was coming. My adoptive parents already had meat and space. I just needed to buy medicine, defense tools, everyday supplies, and most importantly, seeds. Excitement surged in me as I planned my stockpiling efforts. Carrie's vicious voice piped up again. Ditching a villa to live shoveling pig poop in the countryside. Some people are just born low. Hearing Carrie slander my adoptive parents again, the hatred in my heart was about to overflow. When the apocalypse hit in my previous life, I was giving Carrie blood. Sensing danger, my biological parents fled with Carrie, leaving me weak from blood loss. I was lucky. Despite a crippled leg, I barely survived. But that wasn't the end of it. While searching for my adoptive parents, I ran into Carrie's family again. They tied me up, using me as Carrie's blood bag. Worse, they threatened my adoptive parents to open up by using my life as leverage. Out of concern for me, my adoptive parents let them into the ranch, only to be overpowered. In the end, they were tied to a tree, burned alive. I was locked in a basement, serving as Carrie's blood source. The family thrived on our sacrifice, living well through the catastrophe. I grew too frail and died shortly after. Before dying, I heard Carrie's cruel voice. People like you deserve to be my stepping stones. Don't worry, I'll live well off these supplies. Ha! These blood debts will be repaid 100-fold when the apocalypse comes. Leaving the biological family that disgusted me, I didn't go straight to my adoptive parents' farm. Instead, I made a call, giving instructions. With time so short, I wanted to gather supplies before heading back. Dad, Mom, I've ordered a large freezer for you. It'll arrive in 3 days. Make everything else into cured meat. In the next few days, someone will install iron gates around the ranch. Please stay home and don't go out. My adoptive parents always trusted me. Though puzzled, they followed my instructions. With them sorted, I dove into my mission of gathering supplies. I was just a college student, inexperienced in this area. Luckily, 3 years ago, an expert predicted the apocalypse. So there were loads of resources online about stocking up on supplies. After checking them out, I zeroed in on a post from a pro. I mean, who can't copy homework, right? But before I did that, I took $8 million to invest in stocks. $10 million sounds like a lot, but it's not enough to buy all the stuff I need. Lucky for me, I remembered this dark horse stock from my past life. Invest $8 million, and in just 2 days it could double. With the remaining $2 million, I started buying food first. My family's ranch has plenty of meat and animals that produce meat, so I focused on rice, beans, grains, and stuff like that. I quickly found the biggest grain wholesale center in the city and ordered a ton, using the ranch's pig feeding as an excuse. I got 1,000 pounds each of rice, beans, and grains. After grabbing the main staples, I moved to a different city and hit up the big supermarket for instant foods. Dumplings, wontons, ready-to-eat hot pots, pasta, you name it. Even in the apocalypse, you gotta mix it up sometimes. I knew my efforts alone wouldn't cut it, and I didn't want to draw too much attention, so I hired professional buyers online to help me out anonymously. They picked up a ton of seeds, spices, and water for me. The $2 million was pretty much gone by then, but the stocks I invested in had opened up, and when I got $16 million back, I started a fresh round of shopping. This time, I focused on meds, self-defense weapons, and various high-tech gadgets. Meds like basic cold stuff, vitamin C, and Yunnan Baiyao. By the 3rd month of the apocalypse, there's no more electricity. Temps are crazy up and down, so I bought solar generators. Knowing water doesn't last forever, and with a river near the ranch, I also bought some water filters. These high-tech gadgets alone cost me almost $10 million. I didn't want anyone to know the final destination for all these goods, so they're spread around the country. In the last few days, I went back to my foster parents' ranch. There's a village beneath the ranch, and the only family I trust there is Ken's. Ken grew up with me. He and his family are kind-hearted folks. In my last life, Ken's family tried to help me when I was tortured by Carrie, and it cost them their lives. This time, things will be different. Coincidentally, Ken's dad works for a transport company. I asked for a favor, and he agreed without hesitation. Moving goods through him won't attract attention, and only a few will know where they're headed. On the last day before the world ends, I invited Ken and his family to the ranch. Seeing it fortified was a relief. When I got back, just when I wanted to hang out with my long-lost foster parents, a call came in. Carrie's mom was yelling at the other end. "Molly, where the hell are you? Open your damn eyes and see what day it is. Don't tell me you forgot you need to give Carrie blood tomorrow." Oh, I did forget. I was busy hoarding supplies. This little errand was long out of my mind. Get your ass back here, or we're taking you to court for $1 billion in breach fees. I replied coolly. Why panic? It's only for tomorrow. Go ahead and sue. I've got nothing to lose. But without my blood, good luck finding a match for your precious daughter. Carrie's mom was so mad she choked. And the next thing I heard was Carrie's dad picking up. "Molly, what are you playing at?" I vaguely heard Carrie's bratty voice in the background. "Dad, don't bother with her. Take her to court. Let her pay till she dies." I chipped in just in time. I didn't say I wouldn't donate. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'll be at a city central hospital. Unlike their usual choice of private clinics, I picked the hospital in a city this time. Carrie whined. "Why do we have to go with your choice?" I shrugged. "Your call if you want to come or not." Before the call ended, I heard, "Tomorrow I'll make sure Molly pays." I chuckled, feeling pretty satisfied. Since the central hospital in a city was where the zombie outbreak started in my past life. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. is when it'll all kick off. Let's see if anemia gets worse later on. I'm curious if Carrie, without my blood, will be seen as a burden by her doting parents. The apocalypse is coming. After the call, my foster parents and Ken's family looked worried. My foster mom, Wendy, was furious. "This is outrageous," she said, patting my head after. "Sorry we weren't there for you while you suffered." Hearing such long missed care got my eyes wet. Shaking my head with a choked voice, I said, "Don't blame yourselves. This has nothing to do with you." Dad Mike cleared his throat, pulling Mom and me aside. "Molly, mind sharing what you've been up to lately?" he asked seriously. I explained everything about the apocalypse and my reincarnation. Afterward, their expressions changed, from shock to anger, to overwhelming concern. Finally, they held me tight. I hugged back hard, cherishing that rare peaceful moment. Looking at the white hair starting to show on their heads, I made up my mind. In this life, I'll protect them no matter what. Even if I didn't tell Ken's family about being reborn, they weren't clueless enough to not have suspicions after all my prep. That night, no one at the ranch slept. The next morning, the sky started looking weird. It should have been a light blue, but somehow it was turning red. Clueless passers-by just snapped photos of the strange sight, not knowing what was coming. As time passed, the sky grew redder. By the time it was close to 10, it looked as red as blood, totally ominous. It was 9:58 in the morning, just 2 minutes before the apocalypse hit. Carrie and her crew called me again. "Hello, where are you, Molly?" I didn't answer, and they just kept rambling on. "Growing bold, aren't you? We could crush your adoptive parents' farm with just a snap." Before she could finish, Carrie's terrified scream ripped through the call. "Ah, monster." I looked up at the crimson sky and murmured, "The end of the world has come." I wondered if Carrie and them would still be able to come from my adoptive family's farm like in the previous life. On the first day of the apocalypse, everyone was in extreme panic. Luckily, the power wasn't completely out yet. Even though our farm was pretty isolated, we still got news through TV and the radio. Plus, I had transmitters and all sorts of gadgets ready just in case. The news was heavy, with a somber female voice detailing the catastrophe. Even though I was safe where I was, my heart felt heavy. I was just an ordinary person, unable to save everyone. So I only brought Ken's family, who were kind to me in my past life, to this well-protected farm. I wasn't sure if I did the right thing, but for now, I just wanted to live my life. I'd deal with the rest once I had enough resources. Otherwise, I'd only bring trouble my way. My adoptive parents were worried too, just sitting there silently. The apocalypse was a devastating blow for humanity. It was harsh reality, no superpowers, no saviors. Humanity had to save itself. After a while, I calmed down and turned to Ken's family and my adoptive parents. "This could be the last bit of normal weather for a while," I said. "I got tons of seeds earlier. Let's plant them now." Everyone agreed. We needed to do something to distract ourselves from the heaviness. We were all from rural backgrounds, so we knew our way around farming. Ken and I were a bit rusty at first, but the elders guided us. We ended up working the whole day, planting every inch of the land we'd prepared. At the end of the day, I served everyone chicken soup that I'd been cooking all day. Eating the hot soup was the first time we really felt alive since everything happened. The next day, after adjusting to everything, we divided the work. Ken's parents took on the labor of turning the soil. Ken managed the feed for the animals, and my adoptive parents looked after them. I took care of meals for everyone. In my downtime, I pulled out a tracking and recording device I'd set up on Carrie's favorite brooch before the apocalypse hit. It was shaping up to be useful. I hit a button, and I got a signal. At first, the sound was chaotic, but soon Carrie's panic cries were clear. "Help, help." I remembered the device could record video too, so I hit record. On the screen opposite Carrie was her half-zombified father. I was shocked. The butterfly effect moved fast. Carrie's dad, who had gone to Central Hospital in City A, was dead by the second day of the apocalypse. Even though I indirectly caused his death, I didn't feel guilty at all. Instead, it felt good. A life for a life. They'd killed my family in the past. This time they'd pay in kind. Carrie's mom slapped her hard. "You heartless girl. We raised you, and you pushed your father to the zombies?" Carrie defiantly retorted. "So what? You love me, right? You should die for me." If I hadn't used Dad as a shield, it would have been me. Her selfishness stunned her mother, leaving her shaking with anger. She couldn't understand how her daughter could say something so shameless. But it was too late. Regret was useless now. Carrie saw her mom in a daze, grabbed her purse and ran. I shut off the device, not sure of Carrie's mother's fate. But Carrie, she was ruthless enough that I knew she'd be looking for me eventually. Just as I expected, Carrie called soon after. It was the second night of the apocalypse, and phones still worked. Her voice reeked of fake innocence. "Molly, let me talk to my mom and dad." It took me a second to realize she meant my adoptive parents. I couldn't help but snicker. Looking for new parents right after hers were gone? How ironic. She'd always called us country bumpkins when it was convenient. And now, she wanted to call them mom and dad too? I replied coldly. "What do you want with my parents?" "Molly, I know you're doing fine at their farm, but remember, I'm their real daughter." I was on speaker, so my adoptive parents heard her. Knowing what happened in our past life, how could they have any sympathy left for Carrie, their real daughter? Mike was pissed. He snatched my phone and started yelling at Carrie on the other end. "Screw that. Molly's our only daughter. Who do you think you are?" While Carrie paused, I played the pity card. "Carrie, have you lost your mind? Mom and Dad are struggling because of the apocalypse, and you're still thinking about this? The unsold meat from the ranch is going bad. Everything's a mess here, and we're low on food and water." I coughed twice just for effect. Carrie hung up with a loud bang. But I knew it wasn't over. She's stubborn. There's no way she'll give up without coming here herself. Plus, she hasn't given up on replacing me in my adopted parents' eyes. But I'm not scared of her. If I estimate based on my past life, she won't be here for at least a month. I've got a month to prepare for her arrival. Turns out, chaos follows an apocalypse. Before Carrie even showed up, villagers came in droves from the hills below. They waved shovels and hoes, looking ready for trouble. A pot-bellied man leading the bunch whistled. "Did you hear that? If you're smart, surrender the supplies in the ranch. We'll spare your lives. Otherwise, every man dies. And the women." He licked his lips disgustingly. I recognized him. In my past life, when Carrie brought me to my foster parents' ranch, we passed by this village. They didn't know exactly where my foster parents lived, or the way up the mountain. Once this guy found out what they wanted, he immediately helped them out. Later, while I was tied to a bed unable to move, he came for me in the night. That humiliation and pain still scar my soul. I clenched my fists, not even feeling my nails dig into my palms. Some faces in the crowd showed a strange excitement, while others looked completely hopeless. Not everyone wanted to be here. That was my opening. Seeing we weren't leaving the ranch, the big guy ordered the mob to attack the gate with their tools. After some loud banging, they found something surprising. The gate didn't have a scratch. A scrawny young guy pointed with a shaky hand. "Boss, it won't budge." He got kicked down by the fat man. "Useless. All of you useless." I noticed some angry faces in the crowd. I knew my chance had come. So, I grabbed a megaphone and started my speech. "You're people too. Why follow that fat pig? What's he offering or threatening you with?" Some faces outside the gate started to waver. Suddenly, the young guy spoke up. "He's using his family's muscle to bully the rest of us." Most of us didn't want this. More people joined in. As things spun out of control, the fat guy and another man, who looked just like him, tried to get rough. Then, a small door opened at the gate's bottom, just big enough for weapons. I said the final words I had. "Go ahead. Your fate is in your hands." After the chaos, the fat guy and his folks got tied up. The crowd looked solemn as they bowed slowly to the gate, then headed back down the mountain. I knew they'd protect their families. Days went by, and life at the ranch adjusted to the apocalyptic world. The TV and radio should have stopped working long ago, but I had a prepped signal receiver, so we still had service. I calculated that Carrie would be here soon, so I pulled out the receiver from her brooch again. But this time the scene surprised me. A tanned, strong arm laid across her pale skin. After some action, Carrie panted and teased, "John, you're amazing." That's when I saw John's face. He had a rough look with a mean face, the dragon tattoo on his shoulder, making him look even more intimidating. I hadn't met this John in my past life, so I knew nothing about him. In the footage, John laughed loudly as he hugged Carrie. "Carrie, less than a week, and we'll be at your so-called ranch. Imagine all that stuff, Ha ha ha. Carrie snuggled into his chest. Even with her shy smile, I could tell Carrie was disgusted beneath it. She always looked down on guys like John. If not for survival, she wouldn't tolerate being with him. Carrie's mom was nowhere in sight, probably dead. Her dad was killed by Carrie's own hands. She had only herself to blame for ending up like this. Your future's resting on you, John. As they talked, they started kissing again, and things got a bit heated. But to dig deeper into the situation, I forced myself to keep reading. After a while, I finally got the info I wanted. They'll be here in 5 days, and somehow, John got his hands on some firearms. There's no place for guns on the ranch, and the law here doesn't allow people to buy those. But I'm not really worried. We've got bulletproof gates around the ranch. John trying to break in alone is impossible. What worries me is if they let word get out, and more people come along. Sure enough, with Carrie hyping up the ranch, John rounded up more armed guys in the following days for an attack. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Even though I never told Carrie anything good about the ranch, she's still causing me trouble. Luckily, I had designed a secret weapon to take care of them a few days back. One afternoon, as I was chowing down on some greasy roast chicken, Carrie and her crew finally showed. I'd already warned everyone, so folks just kept doing their thing. Outside, John yelled like that pot-bellied guy before. Get out here and surrender to me. Then he showed off his gun in front of the camera, trying to intimidate us. The ragtag group behind him did the same, flaunting their weapons. Soon, they got impatient and started shooting at the gates. As expected, the gates only took a scratch. John got so mad his fists clenched tight, and Carrie caught some of his anger. Smack, he slapped her hard. What if they won't open up? Oh right, didn't you say you're the ranch owner's real daughter? Then I'll just use you to threaten them. Carrie trembled, knowing my foster parents wouldn't care. She backed up scared, but the men behind her had her tightly in their grip. Carrie shook her head frantically, tears and snot streaming as she cried out. John, I've been with you this long, please let me go. John wasn't buying it, and geared up to hit her. That's when I casually turned on the mic. A staged conversation played out at the door. Wendy said, I can't watch Carrie die. She's still our flesh and blood. Mike shouted back, she's our daughter? Wendy, stop with your Mother Teresa act. But Wendy stayed stubborn. I don't care. I can't let Carrie get hurt. If you won't bring her in, I'll go out there with her. Outside, Carrie screamed with a long face, Mom. Dad, help me. I'm begging you. I finally chimed in. Here's the deal. You guys hand over your weapons through the slot under the gate. Once that's done, we'll let you in. Gather what supplies you need and then leave, okay? That made them pause to think. After weighing their options, John agreed. After all, if we didn't let him in, all he'd have is a dead Carrie and no supplies. Carrie's life is worth less than a pack of instant noodles in this world. Plus, John's cocky about his strength, so this decision was all in my plan. After confirming they gave up all their weapons, I opened the door. Seeing their excited faces, I couldn't help but grin. They didn't know there were more than 6 of us here. Guys and gals from down the village had moved to the other side of the ranch, and that I'd set deadly traps for their arrival. In a few days, they'd have no place to stay even if they survived. The fish were hooked. As soon as they stepped through the door, a strong floral scent hit them in the face. Made them sneeze a few times. John sniffed and eyed the flowers near the door greedily. You even bothered planting flowers in this apocalypse. I knew planting flowers made them more certain of the ranch's resources. Inside the hall, though most supplies were hidden in the underground cellar, the stuff we left out was enough to make anyone jealous. At lunch, our family and kin served up a feast. Braised chicken, roast pork knuckles, fried chicken wings, and red wine braised tongue. So many mouth-watering dishes. I saw their throats move. They were swallowing their saliva. I waved them over to join us. John's crew was tempted, but he held them back. What if there's poison in the food? He said. Hearing that, his men hesitated, but they still wanted it so bad. Why don't we just take it by force? They asked John. Are you stupid? Didn't you see they confiscated our guns? People can't move faster than a machine. Anyway, it won't be long until they're finished. John shot me a sinister look. I pretended not to hear, relishing the meal. Meanwhile, John, Carrie, and their gang gnawed on worn-out ration biscuits. After seeing we were fine, they couldn't help but feel tempted. Since Wendy seemed so protective of Carrie based on the recorded convo, Carrie approached us shyly. Mom, can I eat? Wendy had no choice but to nod after what she'd said earlier. Give an inch and Carrie would take a mile. I'm so jealous, big sis. You get to eat like this every day. Carrie pouted, looking for sympathy. I shot her a glance and spoke imperiously. This stuff is good. You need to get out more. I shook my head and clicked my tongue. Seeing her disgruntled face made me happy. Just tossing her own words back at her. After getting back to my room at night, I turned on the receiver. Carrie's venomous voice came through. John, when are we making a move? I can't stand Molly anymore. Ambiguous water sounds and a man's panting followed. We'll act tomorrow at noon. I've got some high-grade anesthesia. Just a drop could take out an elephant. Today was just to figure out the building's layout, said John, sneezing afterward. Ugh, this room is spacious. But why the heck did they plant flowers outside? The smell's killing me. Once I take this place, those flowers are getting yanked out, root and all. Don't worry, they won't have the chance, Carrie reassured him. Just make sure you take care of it by noon tomorrow. The next morning at dawn, after confirming through hidden cameras that everyone was asleep, I took my hot weapon and stepped out the door. At 7 a.m., I dashed back to the ranch, shouting as I ran. Bad news. The folks down the mountain got eaten by zombies. And the zombies are heading up here. With that, everyone shook off their grogginess instantly. They looked terrified like ants on a hot pan. I raised my weapon, signaling for everyone behind me to follow. We've got to work together now if we want to survive. I shouted. By the way, only I know the password to the underground food storage. With those words, I charged, taking down the first zombie. Faced with the threat to the food supply, John and his crew didn't dare hesitate and followed me. At first, we could manage the number of zombies. But as John and his crew got involved, it started getting overwhelming. If someone was watching from above, they would have noticed all the zombies were mostly after John's crew. Meanwhile, I seemed almost invisible, taking out zombies with ease. John's group started taking casualties. The endless swarm of zombies seemed never-ending. In the chaos, John got bitten on the shoulder by a zombie. Everyone knew what it meant. John was done for. A bite meant an 80% chance of turning into a zombie, and a 20% chance of dying on the spot. I didn't hesitate, putting an end to him right there to prevent more zombies from appearing. With their leader gone, the rest were in disarray. Before long, John and his men were wiped out. After they fell, the zombie horde began to disperse. Having dealt with the last few zombies, I headed back to the ranch. My foster parents and kin rushed over, worried as they saw my blood-stained clothes. Before they could speak, I reassured them. Don't worry, it's not my blood. Carrie saw that I returned alone with no sign of anyone else, and demanded answers. Where's John and the crew? Feigning regret, I responded, the zombies were too many. They're all gone. I'm sorry for your loss. Carrie, however, laughed hysterically. That disgusting man is finally dead. He dared to treat me like that. He should have been dead a long time ago. Serves him right. After venting, she turned to Wendy with an innocent look. Mom, I love you. I'm your only real daughter. Let me stay here. In her eyes, Wendy loved her unconditionally, so she never expected a rejection. Wendy snorted. Leave. Did you really buy that act? Molly's always been our only child. Carrie froze, standing there in shock. Suddenly she dropped to her knees, pleading, I'm sorry, Molly. I wronged you, I know. Please, if you kick me out now, I won't survive. I gave her a bright smile and shook my head. Dear sister, don't worry, I won't kick you out. I tossed a bunch of orchids in front of her. Take these, let's go play with the zombies. She stared at the flowers for a while, then suddenly realized something. She yelled, I get it. It's the flower scent. You used it to kill John and the others. Just as she said, I did use the flower scent to lure the zombies. About half a month ago, a memory from my past life hit me. Back then, after donating blood to Carrie, I was weak, lying on a cold mat, and overheard her talking at the door. They talked about how flowers affected zombies. I remember her mocking tone. Flowers? Yeah, right. Where do you think you'd get fresh flowers nowadays? Having stocked up plenty of seeds, I naturally had flowers too. Even though flowers seemed useless in survival, I'd bought several dozen pounds worth of flower seeds during my shopping spree. For some reason, I imagined a day when this apocalypse ends and flowers would bloom on the streets again, just like hope. The flowers helped a ton. I captured a zombie and locked it in the basement, experimenting with different flowers I could grow. After countless trials, I found that orchid scent highly attracted zombies, even inciting violence. That's why I planted so many orchids near the entrance and around their quarters. As for why the flowers had no effect on me, it's because I used a scent removal spray. I'd originally bought it just to avoid frequent washing of clothes to remove hot pot odors. In hindsight, each step led perfectly to the next, and without any of them, I couldn't have gotten rid of them so smoothly. Now that John and his crew were taken care of, I turned towards Carrie. Now it's just you, my worst enemy. I locked Carrie in the cold basement. After my scent experiment, I got hooked on experiments. Driven by the concept of waste not, want not, Carrie became my test subject. I tied her securely to the wall. She could only eat, drink, and relieve herself where she stood. Across from her, the lifeless, wide-eyed body of a zombie from the last experiment seemed to be staring right at her. Carrie quickly broke down. She peed all over the place, crying and begging for me to let her go. But how could I just let her go? She hadn't had a blood transfusion in a long time. Carrie was getting weaker, and I didn't want her slipping out of this world, away from this torment so easily. So I started giving her my blood bit by bit. I smiled casually at her terrified expression, and said something all too familiar to her. You upper-class folks sure make everyone jealous. Even in this mess, you still got someone like me transfusing blood for you, right? Carrie fell apart again. She shook uncontrollably, trapped forever in this cage. 2 years flew by, and the world outside the apocalypse started getting better. The country slowly built 7 official survivor bases. Our ranch, thriving and self-sufficient, became famous as the 8th unofficial survivor base. When the officials came and saw how flourishing our ranch was, I could see tears forming in their eyes. I totally understood their emotions and excitement. Over these 2 years, thanks to everyone's hard work, every inch of soil was turned over, and the plants grew wildly. Initially, we only had pigs, cows, and sheep, but later we hunted wild boars and rabbits in the mountains. So, these animals became part of our ranch too. Not only that, the ranch's territory expanded so much that it was more like a mountain now, and on this vast mountain colorful flowers bloomed everywhere. It was the most beautiful sight in those 2 years of apocalypse. No one who lived in peaceful times would remain unmoved or unfeeling when seeing these fields of flowers. But the key reason why our base was the only one recognized by the state was because I developed a drug that suppressed the zombie virus. Under the effects of the drug, people bitten by zombies had a 50% chance of survival, and this probability was still rising. Thanks to Carrie's sacrifice. After an interview about the drug research, I went down to the basement. The Carrie in front of me wasn't quite human anymore. Technically, she really wasn't. Through my experiments over these 2 years, she had become the world's only half-human, half-zombie in the process of transforming. And she still kept her consciousness. I bent down, staring straight into Carrie's dull, cloudy eyes. Thanks to you, Carrie, look. I'm living in the limelight while you're rotting away down here. Funny how things turn out, right? The words were inspired by something she said to me before I died in a previous life. Truly poetic justice. Carrie tried to lift her eyes, wanting to open them, but she forgot. Due to the experiment's side effects, she had long lost her sight and taste. Only smell and hearing remained. Please, end it for me. She used all her strength to utter those 6 words. I pretended to disapprove. That simply won't do. Human society's getting back on track, and we're a society of law. We can't just go around killing and breaking the law, you know? I left right after that. A few days later, I checked on her and found she had passed away. I burned her, erasing Carrie from this world for good. My 2-year vengeance had finally come to a perfect close. 5 years later, 90% of the zombies were wiped out. Through my relentless efforts, I developed a drug that completely suppressed the zombie virus. Technology was slowly bouncing back, and zombies were no longer a cause for despair. Another 10 years went by, and the zombie virus disappeared completely. The 18-year struggle of self-rescue for humanity ended in complete success. In a joyful restaurant private room, I sat with my foster parents, well, I should say my mom and dad, across from Ken and his family. We raised our glasses cheering together. Humanity perseveres, hope endures. The end.